Welcome everyone. In today's episode, we will we have a special guest, CIO of Burckhardt Compression, Markus Himpele. Hi, Markus.
Hi there, and I'm very happy to share a little bit of what we're doing.
In today's episode, we will try to, let's say, talk about digital engineering, try to talk about also different scenarios and cases and business cases that will inspire, hopefully, you to look into what really the AI is bringing as a business value and how to leverage novel technologies to, let's say, drive the business and to improve the performance. We hope you will enjoy it. So let's get started. Markus, are you ready?
Absolutely, looking forward to it.
Let's start. Burckhardt Compression is one of the most successful companies in the compressor industry. I think you hit the bar in 2023 with 1 billion of in the net order intake, and also you repeated this as well. So you are a company that is not only successful but is growing. What is your role in this success?
We have been extremely successfully growing because we are blessed with many orders from our customers. It's really a privilege. So between 2017 and 2023, we actually doubled in revenue. Now, this is a very natural growth, which is fantastic. But then in this heavy metal industry, there is a physical limit. We have 3 major production sites. We have a couple of assemblies. But such a plant is nothing that you can just add. You can add in small increments people and knowledge and technologies, but to build such a plant costs you $1 billion. So this is nothing that you just test and see if it works, yes or no. So the challenge that we have is how can we continue a sustainable growth? We don't want to reach the plateau. We believe there will be much more than the $1 billion that we reach. First, we wanted to convert the $1 billion of order intake into a real revenue, and we are very successful on this path. But how are we going to continue? And we believe strongly, and this is not new, for a couple of years, we have the conviction that technology will be the key. So we need to be able to scale. And what does it mean to scale? It means if we want to grow, we should not add just another company. For twice the revenue, you should not have twice the costs and twice the people. But technology will help us growing, obviously, quicker than our costs. So this is, at the end of the day, my role in the company, to help finding solutions with technology. So it's technology-enabled transformation, but not transformation out of a problem. It's transformation out of a very luxurious position in that sense, being blessed with such a demand from the customer, having to fulfill this demand, but please not just double the people, the plans, maybe also the problems, but in a very smart way.
And this is exactly what I think resembles the importance of let's say IT organization, because you can impact both products and services, and also but this digital transformation should be somehow anchored into the, let's say, optimization of the way you let's say reply to the customer requirements, but also it could be also in the direction of the novel technologies like LLMs, like agents, AI agents. How do you also feel this way, that you can impact both products and services, and what is let's say, maybe you can name some key initiatives that you are working on right now?
Absolutely. It's basically at the heart of what we're doing. First of all, we asked ourselves, what do we want to achieve? And we said very clearly, and we wrote it down already 2-3 years ago, and we keep repeating, telling ourselves, what we want to achieve is benefit on the customer side. So what we do has to have an impact on the customer. How do we generate value there? We don't want to use AI to automate leadership. On the contrary, we gave ourselves really we wrote down what is like a religious belief, what we should use AI for, not for judging on people, not for actually taking leadership decisions for ourselves, but to help creating customer value. How do we do this? So you don't start with using cases in AI like the hammer and then trying to find the nails. And I think we've seen this a lot in the last 12 to 18 months, where people were absolutely amazed by what is possible and then trying to find opportunities to use what is there. Exactly. We try to do the opposite. We used the last year to train our muscles, the AI muscles, you want to say. So our goal was not to immediately create value with AI. Our ambition was to understand and master this new piece of technology. But there has always been another piece of technology in the last years, and you know how they have been like hyped. And where are they? Some of those. I think AI is a game changer. Don't get me wrong. It's something that will help us a lot. Now we have to be smart and find out how it helps us. So how do we do it exactly? We look at the processes and say, okay, if we want to create value for the customer, what can we do? AI will be a game changer, predictive analytics, and maybe even more automatic reaction. You will not be able to do this to just use the technology and say, please do something for me, but you have to have a look at the process. And this is what we've been focusing for the last 2 years, saying, how can we remove bottlenecks? It's what production companies have always been doing. It's just removing bottlenecks. And then you have different technologies that you use, and AI will help us in doing so. And we are moving between last year and this year from training our muscles. We've actually been quite successful. We did more than a dozen pilots and use cases. The minority has been successful in the sense of achieving the purpose. But our goal of understanding it, mastering the technology, we were extremely successful. So from 1 year to the other, we believe that we can really understand where can the technology help us. We take the cases now. Now we say, okay, let's have a look at the processes. Our time to market, the time just to create a quote to the customer, that takes maybe too long because it's super engineering heavy. You have to digest maybe hundreds and hundreds of pages. Here, AI, for example, can certainly help us and really use the power of that technology to start scaling, because this is what we want to do. Use the brains of those brilliant engineers to focus exactly on what they do the best in the world and use the technology to get rid of the rest.
And this is very important part. First of all, you mentioned that you had several initiatives, and then somehow the minority, maybe a few, were successful. How did you measure the success, let's say, the metrics of those initiatives? Have you identified any numbers that are, let's say, can be quantified, so that you can really say, okay, this LLM worked in that particular case, this LLM did not work, or maybe you had another, let's say, AI technology being tested? Because I think the challenge is, first of all, the hallucinations, and then those LLMs are black boxes. You feed it with data, you get some reply, and how do you judge if it's the right one or wrong in an automatic way? So the industry is telling us, or maybe the research is telling us, you create thousands of tests, and then you compare against those tests. But this is a huge, let's say, effort. So how do you manage to find those, let's say, the business value, and how you quantify the business value?
Let's just say this was exactly one of the goals, because you can use the technology, and then you have to ask yourself, like, when were we successful, yes or not? In the last year, the focus was really on trying to understand if the technology can help us. So at the end of the day, there was a very basic KPI. Does the technology work? In this case, yes or no? And let's say the technology itself very often works, but then it's the same thing as everybody else found out. Without the data, you cannot be successful. So you have a little bit like the hammer, but not the house where you use the hammer. Is the same story, and we found out ourselves the same as everybody else. It doesn't work. So how could we rate? Some of those cases we implemented in real life now. Okay, let's take one of the cases, which is very natural in our environment. We produce compressors ourselves, and there's also other companies who produce compressors. And some of them are not as successful as they wanted to be, and maybe they go out of the market. But then compressor business is a long-term business, and we are not an after-sales company, like producing something and then maybe doing a little bit of after-sales service. We are really a long-term customer engagement company. We produce the compressor, and then we serve maybe for 30, 40, 50 years. I think our oldest compressor is like beginning of the century, 1906. It's still running. It's really long-term, and you do the maintenance all the time. So If the compressor keeps running for another 10 years, 20, 30 years, you need to do maintenance. If the other company is not in the business anymore, who's going to do this? And we want to do this. So there are opportunities where you just acquire knowledge from the other company, thousands, tens of thousands of blueprints, of papers to help our customers support those as well. And the quality of those is not ideal. Let's say you have a look at it and you cannot recognize anything, and AI actually could help us a lot with large language models and optical recognition and everything, giving us the data into databases that we can use then in a mass manufacture way. So now we can populate knowledge databases about compressors of other companies that we can support in the future just to be able to serve the customers. So that is something we just apply. It's very simple to rate now. How many other compressors could we support? I mean, for ours, it's simple because we have the data already, but how many others could we support? Were we able to do this data-based? And you can really start measuring from the data that is in the system. So for this, it's very easy. For others, it's a little bit more difficult. If you take the huge solution of large partners like Microsoft, where you believe to, let's say, improve the sales funnel by data out of the system, here we were still in the learning and the development of the technology itself. It works different in different languages. So something may work fantastically in the English language, but not in the German language. There's not a lot you can do about this pilot or about the technology itself. You have to be patient and wait a little bit till the next upgrade so that it may work in German. Then sometimes how you ask the question makes a super difference. So you go to the system, you say, how many days of vacation do I have? Or how many vacation days do I have? It's already different. So let's say we were also happy to invest into our partners to provide ourselves as a test case to see what's working, what's not. So let's say we regarded this also as a success if we could grow together and after half a year things work better. But what is our philosophy? At the beginning of a case, we have to define, like always, like for the past decades, when will this be successful? For every project, we have to say, maybe this is the RONOA that you need to create. This is the number of cases that AI supported, or in this process, AI is managing maybe so many percentages. For example, creation of content, simply really like for internet, etc. We really rate how much can we create with the help of large language model, and it's a 2-digit percentage. So we feel actually quite happy. We're still a little bit managing and a little bit controlling to make sure that the quality is really at 100%. But there it's very simple. We have all the data in the system, how much it helps us.
So this is amazing because that you actually want to better understand your competitors' compressors, and then you want to serve your customers even in the places where the others won't. And maybe you are referring to the BC Activate, the assessment program that you are running. And what I really found it inspiring that you can actually simulate the compressor from old, that is very old, and then somehow get idea about let's say how long it can be maintained, and this is amazing that it can be based on the data and the knowledge that you have built over more than 180 years, right? 180 years of the company on the market, that you can, let's say, share this data with your customers, and then in this engagement model. So this is amazing. And but also, you mentioned that a few initiatives worked well with the optical sensing, with and also maybe with some, LLMs, but some initiatives also failed. Why did they fail, and what are the challenges actually that you have learned from those initiatives?
I think the number one reason is missing data. We are not in mass manufacturing. Our compressors are very individual. We don't cut engineer every screw, but the use case of the customers are also very individual, like the large plants in manufacturing. So the difficulty is to have the set of, let's say, repetitive data from which you can learn. It's always like this. It's engineering. It's really the top 10% of engineering. So how can you train a model to understand something that took 180 years? And now, but let's say it doesn't mean that it's not possible. But you need access to all data, and this is what we are focusing on now. So if you use, for example, let's go a little bit into technology. If you use the same data platform in all countries, all entities, with all customers, obviously you have enough data to do something. We have decided this has to be our step now. So rolling out the ERP system is one of our major initiatives right now. We have been very successful in doing things how we did them in the past, being very much where the customer is and being very specific to this customer and this particular industry. Now, as a company, we come back to the previous question, how can we grow now? How can we scale? We have to think and be global completely. But that also means integrated data platforms. We're talking about enterprise architecture. It's a precondition for artificial intelligence. We need everything available in a managed way. So that means we have given ourselves really a very heavy task. We have invested heavily into our own resources, into our organization to say, we need central data governance. We need a refurbished enterprise architecture, and we have started this program now. So what we're doing is we identify actually all data. We classify them, all the objects, we have the data catalogs. We have put in place a data governance organization, which is something that companies do, which are maybe 3-4 times the size. So in that sense, we changed a little bit the sequence and did not say, let's grow so we have enough money to have a corporate governance. But we said, we need now corporate governance and local execution so that we can grow. So we put the organization in place. We have installed the data lake, the integration layers. We have moved our BI into this area, and now we are collecting our business. We are rolling out the solution into the countries, and we don't need the top-notch state-of-the-art software. That's not the point. Our goal is not to have the best ERP system in the world. Our goal is to make sure that as a company, we come together on a platform, we work together as a team. With this, we have all data in access, and then we can use AI. But we know it's a precondition. So if you say, what failures did we have? We didn't have failures, we had learnings. It sounds a little bit philosophical now, but the learning was there is preconditions we have to fulfill. So the failure in the past has been to, again, use the technology and believe that one case can generate value for the whole company. So really ask ourselves, how come that some of our initiatives failed? And the reason is that we cut the big ambition, the vision, into pieces, like the elephant that you cut into steaks to digest them, to find out that the different steaks don't make the elephant anymore. It doesn't look like it. So we turn it around and we say, this is so important, let's hyper-focus. Let's hyper-focus on bringing everybody together, creating the data. And now there's also one other element that we changed, because we thought we can use technology to improve processes. And now we have really completely changed our mindset. We are now really, as is written in our strategy, really wrote it down, we have to be a process-driven company. If we are a process-driven company, we can optimize. Then we have to check, are we able to execute our processes in technology? This is a fit gap. And then we say like, yes, but here not. Here we have to do something. When we are able to do this, then we are able to scale. So optimize the processes, make sure you can execute in technology, and now we're talking about automation. Now we are talking about the full power of AI to say, hey, everything is here. You were mentioning the agents before. That's what you want then to have, that situation, that the agents can go in themselves and say, hey, let's recognize patterns, service management in the field. That is a huge potential we are tapping there. What happened in the customer base? What happened in the machinery? Do we recognize something? And they can do this individually. You don't even have to start it, and you can get so much intelligence out of the technology to say, hey, you might want to have a look into this segment of our products and bring it back into value engineering, because the next generation of the compressor should probably have this in mind. And you can turn this into a continuous cycle, because again, we are also very much a service company.
So the vision looks really great. The vision is really great, but then we also have those physical challenges that, for example, you have a plant in China, in India, in Switzerland, and these are very large distances, and you have to enable this digital transformation in terms of data sharing, in terms of knowledge sharing, and those people, those engineers are with a completely different mindset, and so you have to keep the quality of the products in the same way, regardless of the location. You have to share a huge amount of data between those locations. How do you manage that?
It's obviously one of the biggest questions that we have right now. How much data do we share? Okay. The let's say the cloud technology allows us to do everything. Obviously, from the compliance side, there's things that you just have to respect, and there it's not really rocket science. You mentioned China, for example. They also have a Data Protection Act. What can be exported in data, what not? You just apply that. This is pretty simple. But then as a company, we are not working with China. We are working in China. We are, in a way, also a Chinese company. I mean, we are Swiss as it can get. I mean, this is really at our DNA, this preciseness, this quality, the sustainability. This is part of our DNA. But we are already a global company. A majority of the revenue is not naturally coming from Switzerland anymore. We believe in diversity. So we're using really the different locations to serve the whole world. So we're producing out of China, we ourselves. Actually, this is the most successful acquisition that we have done in the history of Burckhardt. A majority of revenue, let's say a major stake, a major part of the revenue comes out of China producing top range compressors. So China is not a workbench to deliver manpower or to just get a tap, let's say, into the market. We have an extremely strong bond with the local governments, nurturing obviously the engineering growth and maturity in China. So for us, it's a little bit the other way around. Yes, we have to be aware that there can always be risks. And, you know, there's this famous, we have to be able to cut the lines. But for us, we are Swiss, we are Indian, we are Chinese. We produce in China happily. It's super efficient. If you would see, the plan is the biggest that we have actually. The quality, but just even the layout is just impressive to really tap into that strength. So for us, it's an opportunity. It's not something where we think every day about the risk. Yes, we have to manage. Technology-wise, they're part of our roadmap. When we now are talking about rolling out ERPs and data lakes and everything, they are part of this roadmap. So we don't have like one roadmap for Burckhardt and another one for China. It's clearly on the roadmap. How can we integrate and work better together? And then you have to use everything that technology gives you to manage the risks, to be able to react. But this is also how we define architecture. It's not static, where you say, this is a target picture, we implement it, but this constant adaptability. We use analogies and say we need to be able to plug in capabilities and plug out capabilities again. It's always about business capabilities. So I need to do this engineering component. How can we plug it in as long as we need it? And then with China, it's exactly the same thing. How can we plug in something and then, okay, you plug it out again? But the target is growing together, being one team. So in our mindset, it's not so much this, I don't want to use the word silo. It's really about, let's use the power. Let's prepare for the worst. Let's hope for the best. Until then, growth is also coming out of China.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think this is a great approach, because then if you keep things local, if there are any disruptions, you are still in operations. I mean, and this is I think the very, very smart approach, and that is already successful. But what we also see on the market is that let's say the new technologies are coming towards the let's say new business cases, which means that the market will grow. I'm thinking about the hyper compressors for the hydrogen compressor, for the hydrogen, and also the LNG, let's say that is right now much more demanded as before. So the market will grow as well, and you have to keep the pace with the growth. So how we discussed a little bit in the about how to be successful when let's say you don't really see where the market is moving, and when those new technologies will be let's say streamlined, but nevertheless the challenge in scaling is there. So you have to focus, right? You have to focus. And what are your thoughts around this?
Let's say we are using the potential that we have already, the organic growth with the orders that we get. But this is not the Burckhardt. There's also the other Burckhardt, which may be overlooked when you talk about manufacturing heavy metal industries, like a little bit like in, let's say, printing. You build the printer, you give the printer out there, and then maybe a little bit of ink that you have to buy once in a while, and this is it. It's a completely different business here. So here we produce something which is the entry point for 30, 40 years. So what do you do then afterwards? The maintenance. You don't just go and fix metal. you need to help the customer optimize actually what they're doing. Let's use again an example from other companies. So let's say in the past there was a company that produced locks to lock the door, and they believed that this is what they're producing, locks, heavy metal. And then comes somebody else and produces little plastic cards. And then there's the internet, and then there's NFC. So the product was not locks, the product was access control. For us, it's the same thing. So we have to understand what is our product. It's the optimization of the production process for the customer. How much can they compress? How much can they do this to support the manufacturing of solar panels, for example? So we have not only the metal, we have a very, very strong foot in diagnostics, in sensors, in showing what is happening in the machinery. So we have actually digital products and real digital products. We don't only have a sensor, we have decades of experience actually with artificial intelligence in that sense. When we talk about machine learning, algorithms, pattern recognition, we've been doing this already 20 years ago. At that point in time, we will still sell this. Our anti-silver product is really connected to the machine in those devices, doing the job of understanding what's happening, the data, and maybe doing something with it. In the last 1 or 2 years, we have completely transferred this into digital version in the cloud. So what we are talking about is really predictive maintenance. We have launched last year, and since last year, several digital products, which first give you complete insight on the data of the machine. So one sensor can identify 58 KPIs. It's quite a lot that you can get. So now you have the full understanding of the data, but this is just transparency. This is just like, here's the raw data. It's a little bit like people implementing MES systems. Then you get all the data from the factory and it's just like, oh, what do I do with it? So we go those next steps. So we have a complete range of digital products, Up Detect, first Up Insight, Up Detect. And what we have been doing already 1, 2, 3 years ago was really predictive maintenance, where we were testing how much can we predict. So with the customer together, we said, okay, let's install it. Let's see what's happening with our artificial intelligence. We're not using things from, let's say, big suppliers. We do it ourselves. So 8 weeks in advance, our product said, there may be something. I recognize something. 5 weeks in advance, the algorithm said, I recognize a pattern. I believe then something will happen, and pointed to a day, and maybe we were a little bit lucky, but on that day, the machine failed. Wow. So that showed us the potential. And now let's take the big picture. What are we talking about when we talk about Burckhardt products? We talk maybe about a ship that is transporting liquid gas from one continent to the other. You're out there on the sea. If you have a failure with the machine, and the compressor is not only for compressing the liquid to go into the ship and then out of the ship, but you also have slippage. You have gas, let's say, leaving the system that you can compress again with our compressors, and this is actually what you use as a fuel for the ship. So if you're doing this well, it means you save quite a lot of money going from one continent to the other. This fails. That's a problem for the ship. If you have to send the helicopter out there to the sea, that is extremely expensive. So what you want is, first of all, you want it to work. And if it doesn't work, you want remote support. So what can our products do? They can potentially tell you there's something to happen and you will not go out on the sea. Or if you are out on the sea, the algorithm can tell you, in 3 days, 2 days, something is going to happen. And now let's talk about the beauty of data and the complete enterprise environment. What we imagine in future is happening. I give you the complete use case. The system tells you there will be a problem in a few days. This is where your ship is supposed to go. I recommend you go through this port because we can make sure that in 3 days' time, there will be a spare part in this port. There will be the technician who can install it. And by the way, you can save $50,000. And when you do the installation, now we're talking about the metaverse, and we are working with partners into this direction, because how do we imagine is this going to happen? It's like somebody going there and trying to find out things? No. In this network environment, the device is known. All previous interventions are known. The blueprints are known. You go there really in that virtual environment. You have a look at the machine. It will show you what has been done before. Will help you even installing it. You could think about a scenario where you don't even send the technician, but you guide the ship engineer to fix the machine on the go with remote support. And this is actually what we're also doing. We have remote support. We are working with virtual environments. Now you have to build the architecture with the partners together. And if you think from an industrial perspective about this, this is an unbelievable change and a game changer in the industry. You will, in the future, from the ideation of the product with the customer, talk about digital twins that you enrich throughout engineering, throughout manufacturing, with the quality certificates, with the installation on the customer side. 30, 40 years of maintenance with predictive maintenance, with remote support, everything. This is what we're doing as a company. This is our future.
The amazing story. When I hear around the predictive maintenance, usually the data is coming from the sensors installed on site, and it's very easy to predict that everything goes well. But it's very difficult to predict that something will go not so well. So if there will be a failure, and because if your products are very good, the number of failures will be very small compared to the time when everything is working as expected. So, but only I think the company that has so much historical data, you can actually predict also, let's say, that something may go wrong. So this is an amazing example that you are leveraging this know-how from those so many years into predictive maintenance, that it really works. So do you think that you have probably tested this approach? Are you really able to predict with so much, let's say, quality what is going to happen in if there are some, let's say, indication of the failure? What was the level of prediction? Can you share maybe more information how well the whole system have been proven to work?
I cannot share everything, but let me put it in this way. What you're pointing to is exactly the reason why we need to do it. Let's say anybody could have the same idea. Let me just take LLM model. Let me just take a little bit of optical recognition and acoustic recognition, and I just build it myself, and then I sell this product. And why do I need Burckhardt? You need the engineering knowledge. You need the OEM knowledge. To give you just one example, and engineering this known, so I'm not telling you a secret, it's like the noise that a machine is doing is very different depending on whether it's a new installation or so long in use or 30 years in use. And you have to have this precise understanding throughout the ramp up of a machine or through production to be able to say, okay, this is a pattern, yes or no. And we have this knowledge. That's the point. If you are that engineering company, you need this, and we have the data. So actually, without this data, any startup would have to start creating the data without the access actually to the fleet. It's impossible to train your AI on this. So can we be successful? Yes. So let's say the hit rates are actually pretty high. I cannot tell you if it will always be on exactly this date and this hour it will fail. But in principle, you're talking maybe about 80-90%. But again, it's a journey, how successful you can be. Okay, we've started those products. We're not selling predictive maintenance and remote support just like this. We are growing in this, and we want to make sure we get it right. So the data insight is already there as a product. The pattern recognition, the detect is there as a product. And now we have to, let's say, with the customers together, we need to grow. And then obviously with creating the data, you can be more smart than you were before. But if I take another use case, optical recognition, because you said how successful is it? A previous company I worked with, you can check now which one it could have been. We tried the same quite some years ago, like almost 10 years ago. And we said, we produce something, can we use optical recognition to understand if the product works, yes or no? At that point in time, the hit rate was pretty low, actually. It was, at the start, 30%. So it's just the camera looking at a very homogeneous product. It's like almost just gray, nothing else. So it should be quite easy to see if there is a different color, which probably is a mistake. After training it, we came up to 70%. So we could say, hey, this is successful from 30 to 70. No, in mass production, it's crazy bad, because it means that you have so much false positives that you just have to have the same number of people who do the same thing. So 10 years later, did AI solve it? I spoke to my former colleague, who's the CIO of that company, and said like, hey, has ChatGPT solved all of this for you? Just, I mean, to out of interest to see what's happening. Said like, actually, we are successful, but did it solve it? No, it didn't just solve it. So this is again the hammer. Yeah. You need more process understanding. I think this is also what we really learned in the last year. So this process focus. And again, I work with analogies. So we are extremely good at what we're doing. And I take the analogy of my grandma. My grandma, she's not there anymore. An amazing cook, is incredible. You go there already looking at it, you gain weight. Whatever she does is 5 things, 10 things in parallel. Cleaning, cooking, baking, all of this. If I would go in there and say, Grandma, we have to have a look at your processes. They're not optimized, they're not efficient. What she would hear is, my food doesn't taste. And she would be very disappointed. So you don't like my food, cook yourself. This is not what this is about. It's perfect capability to execute, fantastic result. But it's not process driven. It's everything very flexible because it's one person who is really able to do everything. If I would add a second person in that kitchen, the problem would start. If I add a dozen of people, it's not working anymore. So this is what we are facing as a company. We are growing, we are adding resources. When we were a very small company, people could manage. Now we want to scale. So now we have to have this focus, not because we're not knowing what we're doing. We know fantastically, that's not the point. But if we want to scale, it means we have to take a little bit the human factor out of it, which means you have to have this process focus. And then you can start optimizing processes, automating processes. AI and technology can then do the things that you need to do. And then you can also take away the friction from all those different interaction points that you have. Like one person can do everything. 7 people talking to each other, just the number of interactions of alignment, this can kill your EBIT as well. So this is now a very strong focus where we say, okay, this is a capability we have to develop. We are an engineering company. We will be an engineering company. But bring this also then, first now in order to grow, bring this starting point, before we do technology, starting point like what problem do I have to solve? How does it create value? How can technology help me? Use this so that I can reach my goals to execute. But then again, this is half the company and the other half is really about in 10 years, 20 years. What is our product? Coming back a little bit to this story. Is our product the compressor and the service? Or is it maybe even the uptime of a compressor? Because if you say, and you were going a little bit into this direction, like if you are super successful with pattern recognition and predictive maintenance, what does it mean for the service? Because they don't have to do intervention anymore. But if as a company, we believe the biggest value for the customer is that the machine is running, it can impact the economic model. And other companies are doing it. Other companies are selling the uptime of their machine.
Exactly. So it's called servitization, right? You can sell uptime. And this is also, I think, one of the potential changes in the commercial models. But nevertheless, the let's say the ability to really optimize the processes is the great example how what is your focus, and you want to focus on being the process-driven company. But then aren't you afraid that AI will only implement exactly this process, but it will not offer any disruptions? That you can instead of iteratively moving towards reaching some KPIs, business KPIs, you could miss an opportunity to create the disruptions and do maybe something completely different way.
This is why you need people. We don't believe that AI is going to replace people. People who use AI will replace people who don't use AI. That's what we strongly believe. So it's a tool that we use. We have to bring the disruption. We have to challenge. This is why we also gave ourselves really those 10 golden rules of how to use AI. You don't use it to judge on performance of people. We just don't do that. You don't give it all the data. You don't let it just automatically decide things. We differ where it helps us achieving our goals and we're not. But to lead and to guide is a managerial responsibility. We need speed from the top. Technology helps us executing, but the speed doesn't come from the technology. You have to hyper-focus, and the beauty is then in executing. If you take a decision, you need to execute. And AI will help us a lot to execute better, people can focus on just doing their job and say, hey, I do what I came to do. I don't see right now that it's the job of AI, to be honest, to be disruptive, but to use this to understand things so that you can be disruptive. Like you take the data and it's like, there's something that I would like to understand. And then you go this process and say, oh, then I may have to do the following. Maybe I challenge everything, or the data tells you were always thinking the wrong thing. So I give you, again, from a previous company I worked for, an example when we, for the first time, used with SAP, actually, we used pattern recognition and let's say the step before AI, let's not call AI. I said, okay, what would you say about the sales forecast? And we use it on old data. So let's pretend it's the year 2015. What would you say about the year 2016? Because we had our own prediction, we could hold it against each other, and actually it was quite successful. While we ourselves have been very optimistic what we could do, the AI said, based on this data, the following is going to happen, and it was very, very accurate, actually, in the pattern recognition. So to answer your question very simply, I think, yes, it can help us also being disruptive by challenging gut feeling and by challenging hopes and prayers, because we tend to justify ourselves. We are over positive maybe about all the different opportunities that we can have, while realistically, maybe future could look different and the technology was more precise than our own thinking. We had a little bit of a too positive mindset. Can it be disruptive? Yes, because in that, just with this little example, you could have said like, well, if this is the case, we have to do the following, and you take data-based decisions that can be disruptive. So let's say in one way, it must not replace disruptive decisions for leadership and for transformation, etc. Because if AI is working based on data, it's existing data, which is not disruptive. But then it can have really this benefit of understanding better, and then you can take better decisions.
Mm-hmm. I loved your point around that AI will not be used to judge people performance, but it will be, let's say, used to let's say, guide them, improve the way they're working today. So, and you mentioned 10 gold rules of AI. So could you elaborate on this?
We have 2 rules, which is there's a couple of don'ts. Okay, we don't judge on people, etc. This is like really a code of conduct. But we also say we use AI to create value for customer. We use AI if it can improve a process. So it's like the external perspective. It doesn't create value for the customer. Let's not waste time. Mm-hmm. At the same point in time, if we get waste out of the system indirectly, it pays obviously also the customer. This is rule number 1. 2, it has to be an improvement in a process and not an improvement in the architecture and the technology. It's just 2 rules.
This is amazing because it shows that you think about ethics and about ethical AI, and then and the code of conduct would gives the whole organization the clear direction where you focus. And I think in today's time, when we have so many things we could do and so many technologies we could implement, I think the focus, or you call it even the hyper focus, is super important. Thank you so much. It was a great discussion. I hope we covered many different topics of relevance for our audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. It was a pleasure.
And thank you to you as well. We hope that you enjoyed our conversation. This time we were talking about a specific industry, but with so many different examples that could inspire you also on your journey. Thank you so much.
And thanks from my side, and looking forward to the next opportunity.